This is an invoice for raising me, Arivya. The total amount was $485,250. My father stood in front of everyone. He read the number out loud into a microphone. He pointed a red laser at a big spreadsheet on the wall. The spreadsheet was hanging right above my birthday cake. He said in a loud, serious voice, "Every diaper, every meal, every smell we spent on you. Now it is time for you to pay it back." I was frozen. I could not even think about the number. Before I could process it, my mother walked over. She grabbed my framed university degree from the wall. Then she smashed it on the floor. Shards of glass and pieces of wood fell all over the carpet. I felt the sound echo in the quiet room. Then my sister Zephra pushed a camera right into my face. She sneered at me and smiled in a mean way. My father said, "I just transferred the car to Zephra's name. We are taking back our property from the family leech." I had a red pen in my pocket. Before I could even think about what to do with it, the people watching online were asked to leave comments. They were asked where they were listening from and what time it was for them. They wanted to know who was part of their community. I did not cry. I did not scream. I did not beg. Those are the things a scared daughter might do. But at that moment, I understood something important. I was not a daughter anymore. I was an auditor at a crime scene. My name is Arivya. I am 29 years old. I work fixing broken companies. When companies are sick or full of lies, I go inside. My job is not just about numbers. It is like doing an autopsy. I look at companies the way doctors look at a sick body. I find what is wrong. I remove the rot. I fire the leaders who cheat people. I save what is still good. I spend my days staring down CEOs who think they can scare me. They think I will ignore what they stole. But I do not. My parents thought they were humiliating a weak person. They thought I was just a helpless nurse or a struggling artist. They were wrong. The room was waiting for me to break. Velker smiled in a greasy, proud way. He thought he held all the power. Zephra was filming me, zooming in on my face. She wanted to see a tear. She wanted to make money from it. They misunderstood everything. At my job, we have a rule. We call it the trap of silence. When a corrupt boss talks too much, you do not interrupt them. You do not argue. You let them speak. You let them show their arrogance. You let them reveal who they really are. Silence is not submission. It is collecting information. My father was not just insulting me. He was showing a list of all the money he spent. It was more than he had ever told the government he earned. He was not giving me a bill. He was giving me a confession. I reached into my blazer pocket. I pulled out my red pen. This is the pen I use at work. I use it to mark things that will be taken away. The sound of the pen clicking open echoed in the quiet room. I walked calmly to the table. The invoice was lying there. My father's smile faltered for a second. He thought I would rip it up. I did not. I smoothed the paper out carefully. In big, bold red letters, I wrote at the bottom, "Received and acknowledged." Then I signed my name with a flourish. "Thank you, Dad," I said. My voice was calm and clear. The guests heard me. The neighbors heard me. The people watching online heard me. I had been waiting 5 years for this proof. "This fills in all the missing gaps," I said quietly. I folded the paper carefully. I put it into my pocket. Then I looked at Zephra. She was still holding my car keys. She looked confused, like a dog who caught a car but didn't know how to drive it. "Keep it," I said. "The repair bills are due next week." "And Zephra," I added, "make sure you spell my name right in the caption." Then I walked out the front door. I did not look back at my mother, who was standing over the broken pieces of my degree. I did not look back at the 200 guests, who were shifting in their chairs, uncomfortable. I walked down the long driveway. I passed the fountain. I passed the security gate. I pulled out my phone and ordered a ride. I could hear nervous laughter from the house. They thought I had walked away with nothing. They thought they had won. They did not know I had already taken the only weapon I needed to bring down their kingdom. I checked into a hotel downtown. The kind of hotel that does not ask how much money you have. I sat on the edge of the white, clean bed. I opened the scanned invoice on my laptop. Most people would see a list of groceries, bills, and school tuition. I saw something else. I saw a psychological profile of a monster. Line 4002 said, "Summer Camp 2006, $2,000. Line 618 said, "Emergency Surgery 2010, $14,000. I ran my finger over the screen. This was a narcissist's ledger. To a normal parent, a child is a person to nurture. To a narcissist, a child is a money-making asset. They feed you not out of love, but to protect their investment. And when that asset starts thinking for itself, when it stops giving emotional rewards, they try to cash out. My father was not trying to teach me about money. He was trying to cash me out. But he made a fatal accounting error. I looked at the years 2008 through 2012. I remembered every detail. I was working double shifts at a diner. I paid for my own textbooks. My father said we were cash poor. I remembered eating ramen in the dark. My mother said we had to save electricity. I remembered the shame of asking for financial aid. I had to check the poverty box because my father reported $35,000 a year to the government. That was a lie. He claimed he was a struggling small business owner. He claimed the mansion was a company office. He claimed the luxury cars were company vehicles. He cried poverty to the IRS every April. Yet here it was in front of me, signed and dated by him. A document claiming he spent nearly $500,000 on me. I pulled up his public tax records. I put them next to the invoice. The numbers did not match. You cannot spend $485,000 after tax on a child if you claim to earn poverty-level wages. You cannot pay for private schools and orthodontics with money that legally does not exist. For decades, he had been funneling unreported cash through family expenses to wash it clean. He had not handed me a bill. He had handed me a roadmap to his tax evasion. I felt a cold smile touch my lips. They thought I was crying in the hotel room. They thought I was mourning the loss of my family. They did not know I was auditing. I was not an ungrateful daughter anymore. I was a whistleblower with a smoking gun. I picked up my phone and called the one person who would understand. Not a therapist. Not a friend. My mentor, a man who spent 30 years hunting tax cheats. "Hello," his voice rasped. "It's Arivya," I said. "I have a case. The numbers don't add up." I stayed in the hotel for 3 days. To outsiders, it might have looked like hiding. To me, it was a strategic pause. I needed to see if they would stop. I needed to see if there was any humanity left in my family. There wasn't. My phone did not ring with apologies. It vibrated with threats. First came a text from my father. He didn't write like a dad. He wrote like a shark. He said I had legally accepted the debt. He said payment was due in 30 days. If I didn't pay, he would garnish my wages. He thought he had trapped me. He did not see the trap closing around his own ankles. Then came a notification from Instagram. Zephra had posted a new reel. It showed my car. The car I had paid off 3 years ago. The car she had stolen from the driveway. The caption read, "Repo the family leeches ride. Number boss babe, number cleanup. Finally got rid of the dead weight. Bye, Felicia." The comments were full of sick people cheering her on. They did not know the truth. They did not know I had paid for Zephra's rehab twice. They did not know I had paid for the phone she was recording on. Then came the final blow. An email from my mother. It was an eviction notice. For my childhood bedroom. A room I hadn't slept in since I was 18. A room she had turned into a gift-wrapping station years ago. The email said, "You are hereby notified to remove all personal property from the premises within 48 hours. Failure to comply will result in disposal of items. A cleaning fee of $500 has been added for the removal of your trash." She meant my boxes of books and childhood awards. The things she had demanded I leave behind. I set the phone down on the nightstand. I was calm. I was still auditing. The air in the hotel room was cool and very still. It felt like the kind of quiet where you could hear your own thoughts bouncing around like little balls. For a very long time, a small and silly part of me had been holding on to guilt. I kept asking myself if everything that went wrong was my fault. I wondered if I was too cold or too distant, like someone who does not care enough. I wondered if I was ungrateful or selfish. Maybe I had been a bad daughter. Maybe I should have done more to make my family happy. These thoughts had been with me for years, whispering in the back of my mind like tiny monsters that would not leave me alone. But then I read that email. It was a very formal message from my mother. It told me that I was no longer allowed to live in the house I grew up in. It was like being kicked out of a place that no longer existed, a room that was gone, and yet they were still angry at me for it. As I read the words on the screen, a strange thing happened. All of that guilt I had been carrying around, years of thinking maybe I was the problem, disappeared. It felt like someone had lit a fire under it, and it burned away completely. The shame, the doubt, the endless questions I had asked myself gone. I understood something very clearly at that moment. My family wasn't acting out of hurt or sadness. They weren't confused or angry because of feelings I had caused. They were acting out of malice. They wanted to hurt me. They wanted to take away my home, my car, my things, and even my memories. They wanted to erase me because I was no longer useful to them. They thought their harsh messages and unfair rules would break me. They thought I would come crawling back, crying, begging for forgiveness, maybe even handing over money to make them happy again. But they didn't know that by being mean to me, they had actually given me permission to take action. I realized I wasn't fighting my family anymore. I was fighting a dangerous problem that needed to be stopped, something unfair and harmful that could not be allowed to continue. I picked up my laptop. I did not reply to Velker. I did not comment on Zephyr's video. I did not write an email to Lasara. I opened a new browser tab and typed the address for the Internal Revenue Service whistleblower office. This was the place where people could report crimes, especially ones about money being hidden or taxes being cheated. It was time to work. I did not go to a family therapist to process my feelings. Instead, I went to a glass-walled conference room on the 42nd floor of a tall building downtown. The kind of building that looks like it touches the clouds. I went there to make a plan to stop the people who had been hurting me for years. Sitting across from me was Thorin, my mentor. He was a man who had spent 25 years working for the IRS as a senior auditor. That meant he knew everything about money and taxes, and could see when something was wrong. He was now in the private sector, but he had agreed to help me. Thorin had taught me that numbers never lie. People might lie, but numbers do not. Thorin looked at the papers spread across the shiny mahogany table. On one side were Velker's tax returns, which he had filed with the government. On the other side was the invoice he had sent me, charging me money just for existing in my own home. Thorin adjusted his glasses and looked carefully at every detail. He was quiet for a long time, studying the papers. When he finally looked up, his expression was not pity. It was more like a hunter's look when he spots a wounded animal. He had spotted a problem, and he knew it was serious. He started reading out loud. "Private tennis lessons, 2004, $3,000, he said, in a voice that was calm but steady. In 2004, he reported a gross income of $22,000 to the federal government. Yes, I said. And here, he continued, pointing to another line, a European vacation in 2009, $18,000. That year, he filed for a hardship extension on his business taxes. I nodded. That's correct, I said. Thorin leaned back in his chair, and a rare smile touched his lips. Arivya, this isn't just a small mistake, he said. This is huge. Your father has written down in his own handwriting that his spending has been far more than what he reported to the government for decades. He didn't just admit to being a bad father. He admitted to breaking the law, tax evasion, wire fraud, and filing false returns. I understood immediately. He thought he was charging me, trying to make me feel guilty and pay him. But instead, he had accidentally given me proof that he had been breaking the law for years. We did not waste time discussing whether it was right or wrong to fight back. When a company is full of toxic assets, you do not mourn them. You remove them to save the healthy parts. My family was the toxic asset. I was the healthy part. I opened my laptop and pulled up the most important document for whistleblowers in the United States. IRS Form 211, the application for an award for original information. This was a powerful tool. It allowed me to report serious crimes about money and taxes. We worked carefully and with precision. Every section of the form had to be filled out correctly. Section B was for alleged violations. We wrote, unreported income and money laundering. Section C was for supporting documentation. I uploaded the invoice my father had sent me. I uploaded the email demanding a cleaning fee, showing that my mother was secretly running a rental business. But the most important piece was the video. It was from my birthday party. The video showed Velker standing on a stage surrounded by fancy decorations, chandeliers, food, and drinks for hundreds of people. He bragged about spending nearly $500,000 on one child while telling the government he had no money. He had flaunted wealth he said he didn't have. Thorin warned me, if we file this, there is no turning back. The Criminal Investigation Division doesn't do warnings. They do raids. They freeze assets. They put people in prison. This is like a nuclear strike. I looked at the screen. I thought about the car keys that Zephyra had stolen. I thought about the eviction notice for my childhood bedroom. I thought about 30 years of being told I was worthless unless I paid. Thorin, I said softly, I'm just returning the product. I pressed submit. The screen flashed a confirmation number. It was done. The federal government was now aware of the crimes. Slow, grinding, and unstoppable, the government machinery began to move. Velker thought he was a king in his castle. He had no idea I had just sold the castle out from under him. 6 months of silence followed. To my family, it probably looked like I had given up. They probably thought I was sitting alone in a small apartment, sad about losing the inheritance. They didn't know that silence can be the sound of something very big about to happen. Then, on a humid Saturday evening in July, it all started. Velker was hosting his annual midsummer gala. The estate was lit up like a huge, bright cruise ship. Valets were parking Bentleys on the lawn. Inside, Velker was probably telling everyone a story about me, the ungrateful daughter, to make himself look good. I sat in my rental car at the end of the street. I watched the live feed from the security cameras. I hadn't hacked them. I just never removed my access. The password was my birthday. He never remembered it, so he never changed it. At 9:15 p.m., the music stopped. Not because the band took a break. Not because the party ended. But because the doors burst open. Federal agents shouting, "Nobody move," poured in. The raid was not quiet. It was a spectacle. Guests screamed and dropped their champagne glasses. I watched as Special Agent Calix, the lead investigator, walked up to Velker. "Velker Dixon," Calix said, "we have a warrant for your arrest for tax evasion and money laundering." Velker should have panicked. But instead he looked annoyed. He stopped the music and pulled out a folded piece of paper. He claimed that the money he spent on me was not income, but a loan from a company called Dixon Holdings International, which he said was based in the Cayman Islands. He tried to make himself look like the victim and me like the criminal. The raid froze for a moment. Velker thought he had won, but he had underestimated me. I knew the fake company better than he did. I returned to the house, plugged my laptop into the projector, and displayed the incorporation papers for Dixon Holdings. The director was my sister Zephra, who had been only 6 years old when the company was registered. I showed proof that Velker had used my social security number to make it happen. By handing over the forged loan, Velker had given evidence of identity theft, wire fraud, and tax evasion. The federal agents restarted the raid. Zephra was taken for questioning. Velker tried to run but was caught. He begged me to fix what he had created. I told him I was fixing it by dismantling him. His estate was seized. His family was removed from the mansion. Everything was auctioned. Months later, I received a whistleblower award from the U.S. Treasury, enough money to rebuild my life. I bought back my grandmother's house, the one Velker had stolen years before. Tonight I sit by the fire. I burn the infamous invoice he once used to hurt me. It turns to ash, just like the power he had over my life. The past is gone. The story is closed. For the first time, I am not a burden. I am not an asset. I am simply Arivya. And I am finally free. I am safe. I am happy. I am me.